What's up? I'm Anthony Keyvan. I play Q on Kitty, and this is Young Entertainment. What's up, Eli? So good to FaceTime you right now.
Hey, thanks for picking up. Appreciate it. We here at Young Entertainment are all about masterclass moments and learning from actors in the field about really the process of how each project is made. So that's really the angle that these questions are going to be coming from.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So to start out, what was it like going from season one to season two? Were there any changes, I guess you could say. And how excited were you to find out that there was going to be a season two?
Yeah. Well, first off, I didn't think we were gonna do a second season. Only because we got renewed like a few days before the SAG strike,
Mm.
and with that came a lot of shows that were renewed and then canceled and not filmed for their next season. So when we were renewed, I was really excited for a couple of days, and then we all went on strike, and then the strike lasted like 8 months. So I was like, "Oh, there's no way. Like, there's no way we're going back. Like, it's been way too long. I don't think like, you know, budget reasons, however the studios work, like, I don't think they're gonna want to pick us up." And then the strike ended, and then we got like a email like 2 weeks after the strike ended, and they were like, "Hey, we're gearing up for season two. Like, we'll be in touch. Like, here are the potential dates." I was like, "Oh, okay, so we we are doing this." So it kind of came as a surprise to me because I kind of had written it off as like a loss, honestly, because so many of my friends who were on shows at the time that got renewed were then told by the studio that, "Hey, I know we gave you a renewal, but we won't be able to make your show anymore." So I kind of had that in mind when we were on strike. So
Yeah.
it was definitely like a pleasant surprise, but also kind of jarring at the same time because when you kind of move on from a project mentally, it's like kind of weird to like step back into it. And then we went back to Korea and it felt like no time had passed. Like even though it had been almost 2 years since we had been in Korea filming season one. So, obviously we all look a little bit different. We all are a little bit older, but at the core of it all, we were all very excited to be back, and it kind of just felt like, old times in a way. Um, Things were different though, I would say. Like I would say season one was kind of like a test drive. Like all
Mm.
of us were kind of getting our bearings for different reasons. A lot of our cast had never been on a production before. So that was like very new to them. And then for me, I had been doing this my whole life, but I had never filmed in Korea. I'd never filmed anywhere other than the US or Canada. So it was very different for me and it was very new for me. So season one, I felt like we were all trying to figure it out. And it was, there were a lot of learning curves, a lot of growing pains. And I feel like when we came back for season two, we were a lot more comfortable in ourselves as people, as actors, more comfortable with our craft. And that also translated, I think, with our writers and our crew. Like e- everyone felt like we had come back better.
Yeah.
And I feel like season two definitely appears that way, whether it be our performances or the shots that we included in the show, how it's filmed, how it's edited. I think a lot of first season shows, it's difficult because like in like 8 years ago, you would do a pilot and that would be like your trial run, just the first episode. And then you have like a few months after getting picked up to kind of like work out the kinks and make things better. But with streamers these days, you are given a full season as your trial run,
Yeah.
which is a blessing in the sense that you don't have to wait for a pilot pickup and get your hopes up in that way. But it's also tough because everyone is trying to create something without the time to prepare, I feel like. So season one, I feel like was a little bit rough.
Mm.
Um, and season two, I feel like is just a world of difference. And it it is such a blessing to get to see something grow into something so good.
Yeah,
And I'm glad that we didn't have to leave it off on that note with season one. Not saying that season one was bad, but I definitely feel like we were all just figuring it out. And
totally.
with season two, like we are so much more in tune with our characters, with the writing, with, on in every department. Like we've worked out all the kinks, and I feel like season two is just so much stronger because of it.
Oh, I love that. It's crazy, like hearing you talk about this because myself and literally everyone watching this was obsessed with season one. So, like, to hear that you was kind of like working things out, you totally could not tell. Y'all totally played that off really great. We're just so excited for season two. I'm curious because you say like, there was a lot of time that passed between season one, season two, and hearing you kind of say, working through kinks and stuff.
Mm.
Were you able to like learn anything specifically on season two about your acting, about your character? Like just were you able to just like dive into it more and kind of learn more about, I guess, this journey in season two?
Absolutely. I think with any job that you do, the more you do it, the more experience you gain and the more comfortable you feel doing that.
Yeah.
And with season one, like I said, I've done this my whole life. I thought I knew everything I needed to know about playing a character like this, especially coming off of a show very similar like it,
Mm.
with Will Victor. But yeah, there was a lot of learning I had to do. The process is completely different in a foreign country, you know. Everything fundamentally is different when you're filming somewhere that you're not used to filming. Most of our crew is Korean, so there was a lot of learning curves in that sense, and working with people who don't speak English as their native language, you know. So like learning how to communicate and learning how to create the same product with different
Mm.
elements is very, very challenging, but also so rewarding because you get to experience how other people work. And I think that's super important because you live in this bubble in LA where things are a certain way. And I definitely kind of got like slapped in the face with the reality of the fact that everywhere you go, you're going to be learning something different. And I feel like with this show, especially, the material's not necessarily difficult material. It's not like we're not doing crazy stunts. The emotions are, teenage emotions. There aren't like super high stakes. So I came into it thinking like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. And it wasn't. Like it was
Yeah.
so much learning, so much growing, and just experience. Like it was so rewarding, and it has been, and I hope it continues to be. You never know. But yeah, like I definitely feel like I've grown a ton doing this show. I've learned how to advocate for myself, which is not something that growing up, you were always told like, hey, don't be difficult, don't be a diva. But sometimes when things are not right, like it's important to speak up. And I was blessed to have that platform on this show and also be supported by the people on the show when I did feel like I needed to speak up on something. So, yeah, I feel like this show has taught me so much, and it has been a blessing in more ways than one.
I love that. Can we kind of like touch on that a little bit more, especially for like young actors? Like a lot of people watching this are people like I mentioned before, like who are wanting to do this. And so it's a lot of younger viewers. And I'm curious to hear from you. It's a challenging dynamic on set as a young person. You're surrounded by elderly people who are older than you, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yep.
And so like advocating for yourself can be challenging. What kind of advice would you give to young performers to speak up for yourself, and how would you necessarily approach it so that it's still in a professional way and not in a harmful way?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it as well. And I think if you feel uncomfortable in any situation, talking to your representatives is a very
Mm,
important thing. They're there because they are your team. There are people who are going to go to bat for you, and they're the people who should be putting out the fires for you. I don't think you should have to do that yourself. And I'm very grateful that I have a very supportive team where if I brought up any concerns, they would bring it up to production and they would be addressed. I don't think you should throw a fit. I don't think you should be unprofessional in any way. There are channels to go through. And also like just being open and honest about how you're feeling. If you feel like something or someone was treated poorly on set, or if you feel like you were treated poorly or your rights were violated in any way, absolutely speak up. We have a union for that too. Like SAG is an amazing union and they are there for you. So any concerns that you have, don't feel like you need to keep that to yourself because at the end of the day, if you're working with good people, you will be heard and you will be supported. So yeah, I don't want to go into like too much detail,
No,
but like
that was perfect.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And especially like kind of that reminder of like, we're not alone. And like,
Yeah.
like we do have the resources, whether it is a team, whether it is our union, whether it is like whatever it may be. So you touching on that and kind of like it's easy to feel like you are alone and to forget that you have those sort of resources.
Yeah.
So just using them to not like in a, honest and helpful way. It was perfect. So, I'm curious, like let's take it back to like an audition process or just even like at the beginning of each season, going back to set and everything. We love to ask people what are your thoughts on like your name? Like the name Q, it's such a unique name. How does that help you develop a character when you see that on, the call sheet or the breakdown, whatever it may be?
Well, I definitely had some questions. 'Cause also when I auditioned, there wasn't, or also when we were starting season one, he didn't even have a last name. Like I don't think that was thought about with our writers. I think they were just like, he's cute. That's what it is. I'd also like to think that maybe they named him Q because he's queer. I don't know the reasoning behind it, and I don't think they did either. And so when I was beginning season one, I had a conversation with Jenny and Sasha, our showrunners from season one, and I was like, so what's his name? And they landed on Quincy, which I, I don't know where that one came from, but I also wanted to get him a last name. I wanted to give him more of an identity, because I don't want to play a character that is ethnically ambiguous. Like I want to provide that representation if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had a conversation with Jenny and Sasha, and I was like, I know you want him to be like Middle Eastern, but like I'm half Filipino and half Persian, Iranian. I would love it if Q reflected that as well. And they were super open, they were super receptive to that. And so we landed on Shabazian being his last name, which is a Persian last name. And so he does have a full name.
Yeah.
But like going into it when I was auditioning, I wasn't given much. Usually when you're auditioning for like IP that is pretty well received already and highly anticipated, they don't give you a lot of information because they're worried about leaks and totally understandable. So when I
Yep.
was auditioning, I had no idea what this character was going to be. None. I kind of winged it. I just did what I felt like with the sides that were given to me would be appropriate. And it worked. They liked it, I guess. And then the closer that we got, as soon as we started like the negotiation process and getting me a test deal, that was when I had that conversation with Jenny and Sasha. I was like, I don't really want to play a character that is just kind of there. Like I want him to mean something to people, and they were very open and receptive to that. I'm not saying that they didn't have a plan for him, but I wasn't sure what that was, and I did want to have kind of a say in that if I was going to join the show.
Hmm. I love that. That's sick. I love that you were able to add, your own personal identity to the character as well. That's really special.
Yeah, it's pretty important to me. I've I'm not gonna lie, like I appear to be many different things, and in the past I have played characters that were not authentic to my own heritage.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of doing a disjustice to people. Like I've played Hispanic and Latinx roles where I feel like it should have gone to someone who was that. Um,
Interesting.
so I kind of would like to in the future, if possible, to continue that doing that. And I kind of got that idea or that notion when I was doing Love Victor, because I played a Persian kid on Love Victor, and that was the first time I had ever played a character that was close to me
Yeah.
in my own background. And going into Exo Kitty, I wanted to continue that, and I'm just grateful that the creators and the people behind the show were behind that idea as well.
Absolutely. Good for you. That's so great. And that's such another great example of like, just talking it out, being honest, being open with the writers, being like, hey, I would love for it to represent me a little bit. Like, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's very
especially when
cool.
you're on a show that is so, or when you're auditioning for a show that is like so pro representation, like everyone on our show represents a certain community, background, ethnicity, which we don't get to see a lot on TV. So I would
Right.
definitely want to be a part of that in that sense.
Amazing. So I'm curious, Q and Kitty, played by the lovely Anna, they obviously rely on each other a lot this season, and they really are vulnerable with each other. So like I'm curious, like as an actor, how do you kind of allow yourself to be vulnerable with someone? Like, and what is kind of the off-camera work that has to be done in order to get to a place where you're like comfortable, where you guys can let your guards down like you guys do, and create a special bond to make sure that, it's a safe space and stuff. What does that process look like?
I mean, it's a very organic process. It's not something that you can like create on your own if neither party is like willing to. And I don't know. I'm really lucky to have Anna as my scene partner for a lot of those scenes because if you don't have chemistry in real life, it's difficult to portray that on camera.
Right.
You can be the best actor in the world, but if you don't like the person you're acting with, it's not going to feel authentic. And I have to chalk it down to like luck because Anna and I did not know each other prior to filming Exo Kitty. We had one chemistry read during the audition process over Zoom too. So it's like you can't really gauge chemistry through a screen a lot of times. So they took a chance on us, and I think the risk out or the reward outweighed the risk, whatever the saying is, because when we came to Korea, we just instantly clicked. We both have been doing this for a really long time since we were kids, so we had that kind of level of understanding with each other, that mutual understanding, and we were both scared out of our minds to do this. And I think that kind of like trauma bonded us in a way. But in all honesty, like I have a lot of respect for Anna. And I think that respect is reciprocated. And I think being in another country and experiencing something so new together for the first time, um, that definitely helped like exacerbate that chemistry and make us closer than most cast members normally would. And
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times. I've been on shows where the two best friends on the show hated each other's guts, and it made the whole show a difficult experience for everybody. And we just don't have that. We don't have that on Exo Kitty. We're really, really lucky that all of us, set aside our egos and just kind of understood what we needed to do and understood each other and genuinely like each other. And with Anna, it's no different. I love that girl. She's like a sister.
Oh,
Like I would go to the ends of the earth for her. She's so professional and so kind and so generous with her talent and her time. It just makes it easy to be close to someone like that. And so when we play on camera, it's very close. It's very similar to how we are in real life.
it totally shows. It totally does. Like it feels so authentic. It feels so real. It doesn't feel like it's being forced by any means. And there are moments where, we've all seen things where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, are we buying into this right now, really? But yo, y'all are crushing it, and we're buying into all of it, and we're loving it. So you could totally tell that there is a special, relationship and bond that goes between Q and Kitty, but also, you and Anna. Um, so I want to talk about episode 4 because we won't say anything, we won't give it away. But I have to say, I just the moment where it's like, would you believe that he's stalking me? I died. I died. Okay. And I'm just so curious, like when the entire cast is together, right? Like that's probably like it makes for a very special episode. It also like shows that like it's gonna be important episode. It's a big scene, So I'm curious, like what is it filming for like a big scene of the series and just having like the whole cast around because sometimes you kind of are more secluded and you just have like one or two cast members in each scene. But this was like it seemed like the whole cast. So what is it like when everyone's there?
Um, long days.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it's so much fun because like you're hanging out with everybody, and we were also filming that scene like 2 hours outside of Seoul. So it felt like a field trip, like a camping
Yeah,
or something like that. And that always makes it a good time. But it is a lot because you have to get coverage on everybody, and
right.
only so much time in a day. And also in that particular set, there aren't a lot of ski cabins available in Seoul or in South Korea, and we were really lucky to find this one. It was actually two separate ski cabins across the street from each other. So we were filming at both, but made it look like it was one. So it was a very tight space, very small, close quarters, and every cast member. And then you got to fit two cameras in there. So it was a lot of choreography. It was a lot of like, okay, I need to tuck myself into this cabinet right now so I'm not seen until I need to be seen. It was a lot. It was a lot. When you're filming a scene with that many people, and we kind of saw it too, like in the beginning with the auditorium stuff and basically any like party scene where everyone's in it. It's long
Right.
days. It's very long days because everyone has dialogue. Everyone has, a wide, a close, a two shot. Like there are so many different setups that you have to do and not a lot of time to do it. So you're really only given like two, three takes to make sure you have the shot. And so it takes a lot of preparation on everyone's end, whether it be crew or cast. We all have to show up and know our lines. Otherwise, we're not going to get a take that we like, but they're going to put it in anyway because we don't have time to keep going. Um, I read somewhere too, like one take on a show, on like a show like ours, is like equivalent to like $4,000 or $5,000 in time,
Oh my God.
in camera rental equipment and paying people, all of that. So it's like if you mess up, like there's money on the line. So you got to make sure you're doing your job. You can't
Yeah.
F around. So everyone really showed up. Everyone knew what they needed to do. So it was difficult, but it was a lot of fun too because when you're not on camera, someone else is, and then you get to hang out with the rest of the cast and holding and just like make TikToks or eat crafty.
Right.
You're on camera, you have to be on and you have to know you have to hit your mark, you have to say your line right. You got to get every nuance in there because you only get a couple takes.
That's awesome. It's crazy. Like the big scenes are our favorite, and it came together so beautifully. Like that's the other thing. Like because obviously, like seeing behind the scenes and doing stuff, like we know like how much time just each take takes.
Yeah.
So like a minute scene could take literally, like you said, a whole day, if not multiple days. And
Yeah.
so the way that it just like comes together so effortlessly is so cool to like see the finished product. It's awesome. And that's props to the like you said, the cast and the crew and the preparation that y'all do to make it all look as beautifully as it does on the screen. Um, I got a question because you mentioned, South Korea and you mentioned earlier just like the crew. and everything like that. So I'm curious. Last time we spoke to you, you actually like mentioned that there was like a language barrier as well. So I'm curious, have you like been able to pick up any like Korean? And if so, like has that helped you throughout your filming process? And I don't know.
Um, I don't know if I don't think it's helped me during my filming process, but
Okay.
I have picked up some Korean. It's weird. Like I'll hear some crew members speaking in Korean, and I'll turn to like Minyoung or Sangkwan and be like, "Oh, does that mean like we're on the martini? Like, is this the last shot of the day?" Um, and he'll be like, "How did you know that?" And I think it's just like memorizing sounds because I don't know what they're saying. Like, I don't.
Got it.
I think I'm starting to pick up on like the sounds of the language and then the timing of it, and then like using that with the context of where we are and
Got it.
putting that together. And but like I have picked up some, like I can order at a restaurant if I need to. I can ask where the bathroom is and I can say like that's a wrap or like have a good night. Um
There you
but
go.
I don't think it's like helped me per se with my filming process. It's more so just like a fun like party trick now.
Fair enough. I wasn't sure if you were on the Duolingo or something. Like, you
Oh, honestly,
know.
I should be. Like, I just want to come back if we do a third season and like say something in Korean and have everyone be like, what? That would be cool.
Yeah, right. That would be hilarious. That's so good. What about last question for you, and then we'll play that game that I mentioned earlier. I'm curious to know, you and Joshua Lee,
Mhm.
who plays Jin, obviously get close this season. So I'm curious, was there anything that y'all did? Like, was it the same sort of organic process with Anna, or is it something like even do you guys have to like go out to eat or maybe spend a little bit more time offset or try to spend more time during the downtime on set? Like, what is that? Because it's such a beautiful storyline and it's being displayed so beautifully. So I wanted to hear the process behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, okay, so we kind of cheated in the audition process. Um, kind of, I'll explain. So
Okay.
his agent or manager, someone on his team is good friends with someone who used to be on my team. And it was like my childhood agency. And she had reached out to my manager and was like, "Hey, this guy is going to be chem reading for Anthony's love interest on the next season. Would you be okay with having Anthony like do a FaceTime with him before because he's never done a chem read before?" And so my manager reached out and he's like, "Hey, can you do this like a favor?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And so we got on FaceTime like the day before the chem read to kind of just like break the ice a little bit and give him a leg up in a way.
Yeah.
I had nothing to lose. Like I if he was bad in the chem read, I would have said something to the producers and been like, "Yeah, I don't think this is the right one." But I think it helped the both of us kind of like have some level of knowing each other in a way before
Mm,
we did it. And I think it helped him be a little bit more comfortable during the process. And so it also like it was a shoe-in for him. Like everyone else who read for Q or for Jin, I was like, is this really the best that we got, you guys? And then like Josh came in and it was like so obvious to everyone that he was the right choice.
no.
So he ended up getting the job, obviously, and then, but he'll probably tell you a difference. I don't, I'll just tell the story how it was. When I got to Korea, I was in like the worst mood. I hadn't slept. Like, I had like a 14-hour travel, like flight, and then I got in at like 2 a.m. and then at 8 a.m. they were like, "Oh, there's a van to pick you up because we're gonna start training you to run."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Like, I don't even have a day to like gather myself." So I was like in a really awful mood. And I didn't know this, but Josh was also going to be in that van and he was going to be training with me. But in the van, I had my glasses on. I was like, I was honestly like really, I probably was really off-putting to him. Like, I
Mm.
honestly, like, I just did not have any energy and I had a headache and I was like, what are we doing? And he was like so excited to be there. I feel so bad looking back on this. Like, he was so pumped. He was so just like
Oh,
"You do it. He looked like he had slept like 12 hours. He was just like ready, and I just was not. And so I was not expecting him to be in the van. I wasn't like my social battery was at negative. Like so I was like, hey, like I just was not like wanting to talk in that moment. And I felt like he felt like I hated him. And that could not be further from the truth. I just truly like could barely open my eyes. And so like when we talked later on, like I was like I had finally slept and I had eaten and I was like ready to, socialize. He was like, I thought you hated me. I was like, no,
oh,
I promise you I don't hate you. Like I just was like honestly upset at production because they like did not even give me 8 hours to like gather myself. But it all worked out. Like we ended up doing the running training, and it was so fun because neither of us had any idea what we were doing.
oh God.
I don't run. Like I'm not a runner. And I knew this going into it. But I had told production, I was like, hey, and I did this myself too. Like I asked them to set me up with a trainer. So like I
Wow.
couldn't even be mad. But they set me up with a trainer, and the trainer was awesome, like super tall, super athletic, like ex-Olympian, like he trains all of the like Korean celebrities. He was like the real deal. And I was like, I have no idea I truly I don't know how to run. Like I don't know the proper form. I don't know how to lace up my freaking spiked shoes. Like I didn't even know that. So it was really fun to get to like experience that and also learn something new with Josh. And I think we did most of our bonding during those times because we were training like 3, 4 times a week for like 2 hours a day. And then the track
Yeah.
like an hour away. So we had a lot of time to talk. And yeah, so we got really close really fast. But at first, he's probably if you talk to him, he's probably gonna be like, I thought he hated me at first. And
Stop it.
I'm gonna get ahead of it now and just let you know that yeah, I did not act my best that day. I was not feeling it. I wasn't feeling anything. It was not personal, Josh. Like it was truly me. It was all me. But
Right.
no, Josh is also just like a really likable guy. Like
Yeah.
anybody you ask on our cast, like they're gonna be like, I freaking love Josh. Like he's just fun. Everything he says is funny, and he's just like a light, like someone who is not jaded, and someone who, like me, someone who is like just really excited to be there. And when you
I
are
love that.
someone like that energy is it's like transferable. It's very palpable.
Totally.
I feel like that helped me kind of like stop being such a in a way and kind of like loosen up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it made it really fun to work with him.
Well, that's great. And I'm sure, like, honestly, like those funny interactions, not like funny. Now we can look back and it's funny.
Laugh at it now.
Yeah, but like those moments really do like bond people, like right away just to and then the fact that you were both able to like clear the air and like be like, "Oh yeah, like that's great." And that totally built a bond. So I love that I don't love that for Josh, but I love that that's the story now that we can
Oh,
laugh
we're
at
good
it.
now. We're like
It's
this now.
so good.
It all worked.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I'm Anthony Keyvan. I play Q on Exo Kitty. Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to Young Entertainment.